Hey everyone, it's Christina here at Close to My Heart, and today we're going to be taking a look at how we can create custom banners using our wooden letter pieces. Now, before we get started, of course, make sure that you subscribe to our page so that you don't miss any of these videos. We also want to make sure that you turn on those bell notifications so that every time we post, you're notified. And of course, like this video so you can continue to see great and fun tutorials like this. Let's start by taking a look at a banner we created. Now, although we are, of course, a scrapbooking company and we do a lot of stamping as well here, we also just love general paper crafting. And you can tell that by taking a look at this really fun Celebrate banner that we made. Now, I love this because it just has such a great variety of colors. It could work for any occasion, which is purposely why we created it this way. And the word we chose to do was celebrate, which again is just something I could use over and over again throughout the year. Now, on this one in particular, we covered each of these wooden letters. So you can see this is wood here with white cardstock, and then we went ahead and decorated the white cardstock, of course, in different ways. On these here, we just brushed on some watercolor paints. We also did some embossing. We've added a little shimmer trim to add a little bling to them, but there are so many different ways that you can decorate these. Now you can get each letter individually, which is great. So you can spell anything you want. I also like that you can personalize it. You could use it to maybe use one of your children's names for their birthday or something like that, or even put it in their bedroom. Love that idea. So you can get each letter individually, and they also come with a digital art file or digital cut file so that you can then go ahead and cut this shape out if you have a digital cutting machine to go ahead and add onto here, decorate however you want, and we'll look at some samples of how you could do that. But you can also decorate right on the wood, so you don't have to have a digital cutting machine to be able to do this. And we're going to try all different kinds of fun ways that you can decorate these letters today. Let's go ahead and start by taking a look over here at our letter R. So on this one, we have used our paper that is called Irresistibles. Now, this paper is specifically designed with a pattern that goes through it that doesn't grab the color that you put on. So whether you put color on in an ink or in a pencil or a watercolor paint, it doesn't pick up that color. So you have this white pattern showing through it, which is such a cool thing. So for this one, we did use that digital cut file. We cut the letter out using that on our cutting machine, cut it out of this irresistible paper, and then went ahead and colored it with colored pencils. So this is just a fun rainbow of colored pencils. Easy enough to do, something you probably have on hand. And again, as you color each of these little strips, that the embossed design that's in that paper doesn't pick up the color, which just gives it this really neat look. You can also, I would recommend on this, what we did, we used washi tape as we did each of these little rows here to just help keep them straight. But I think it's just such a really fun technique. And this one again is using paper that was cut using that digital cut file and then decorated and added right to this wooden letter. Now, when you attach it to the wooden letter, you can use your regular adhesive if you want, just a regular scrapbooking adhesive or a glue dot, whatever you have on hand. It holds pretty well. It's just paper right onto wood. Okay, next up, let's take a look at the letter E. So on this one, again, same thing. We used that cut file to cut the E out, and we used one of our colored papers. This happens to be melon. And with this one, we wanted to do this kind of splatter technique. Now, there's a lot of different ways that you can do this splatter technique. On this one, we just grabbed one of our water brushes. So just a water brush, inked it up in the ink color, which we used the same ink color as the paper. So it's melon on melon. And then we just kind of splattered this on here. Simple enough, and that's what gives us that really fun, almost like a little spray paint look to it. So that's one with just paper and then using a little bit of our ink pad to add a fun design on that. Okay, next up, we'll check out the L that we did here. This one has another neat look. You might recognize this little floral through here. It's that same type of paper. I want to pull that other one in so you can see the different looks you can get from that same Irresistibles paper. So Irresistibles paper, but used in two different ways. This way we cut that file and used it with the colored pencils. And this one here, we used a blending brush and we used some just ink. And the blending brush is nice because you can get a variety of colors blended in nicely. And you can see we just went from a darker green basically to a lighter green. And same thing, that pattern is not going to pick up the color, which makes it almost look like you've done one thing on the base part and then gone ahead and embossed over it with the white, but you haven't. That's actually just in the paper. So another way to add paper to the letters and kind of jazz those up, decorate them up a little bit to get the desired look you're going for. Now, like I said, we are a scrapbooking and stamping company, of course, but we love just transferring that onto paper crafting and all fun things. This for sure is a sample that you probably would recognize in just your regular scrapbooking, this technique that you use. And this is just to go ahead and stamp. It's a tone-on-tone stamp right on top of the paper that we cut. So we again used the paper, used that digital cut file and cut our shape. Then we just used a stamp in the same color ink to get this tone on tone, which is a more subtle stamp look, and stamped it all around the A and then went ahead and attached it to the front. Now, fun things that you could do with stamps. Think about incorporating stamps into these. If you are having maybe a specific themed birthday party or event, you could definitely incorporate some of those stamps onto these letters to really help tie that theme all in together for the banner that you're creating. Okay, next up we have our letter R. This one's so fun. And this one is just using some spray, of course, and again, paper right on this piece of wood. So we got the letter R. We went ahead and cut that digital cut file out, just using white paper. And before we attached it to this, we just sprayed it with some spray. So this is just general crafting spray you can use. Remember the other one that we did? I want you to see the different looks that you can get. These are both kind of really fun organic looks, but so different, right? With the spray, you can see you definitely get those spray marks close up, where this one was done with that water brush with the tapping. So while they're both kind of organic and dotty looking, they still have a very different look to them. So it's two different and distinct looks that you can get, but really fun. I think this would just be such a fun kind of party theme. It just feels like fun when I look at that one. Okay, next up we have our letter B, and this to me is how you would traditionally think of covering these. So if you choose to cover these, I think our mind automatically goes to, I would cover this with some decorative paper. And that's what we've done here. So easy enough, we just picked a paper that we wanted, used that digital cut file to cut that, and attached it right to the front. So fast and so easy to be able to create those. Now I want to try and talk you through and actually demonstrate for you some different techniques that go right onto the wood. So far we talked through all of those different ones that use paper on top of the wood. And that would require you to either have a cutting machine and use that digital cut file, or to trace them and cut them out yourselves. Maybe you don't want to do that, or maybe you don't have access to that machine. We want to show you that there are so many different fun things that you can still do by simply working right with this piece of wood. So on this one here, what we did was we used watercolor paints. So I'm going to go ahead and just grab a little mat to work on. And I'll kind of just put this off to the side so you can see that technique and kind of see what I'm going for. And then I'm going to grab the letter T. Just grab a T to use, just because I can do any letter I want. Remember, it's so nice that these are all available individually, because then you can get whatever letters you need to create whatever banner you want. I'm also going to use a water brush. And I'm going to have these off to the side, but I just have some watercolor paints. So you can use any watercolor paints. Again, this is just going to be, we're painting right on to the wood. So I'm going to pick out the colors that I want. And I think I'll pick some yellows and oranges, just not to make it identical to that sample that we have here, but similar. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start with my lighter color up in here, and then just slowly transition down into the darker color. So I've picked up some ink onto the tip of my water brush. Move that out of the way for a second here. And I'm just going to go ahead and start painting this on. And this is so easy. This is something, whether you feel like you're very crafty or not, this is definitely something that everyone could do. This would be a great and fun craft that you could do with kids. This is something that they can help you with and participate in. They can help make their own decorations for their room or their own decorations for their fun party that they're having. It's really so forgiving and so easy. You don't have to worry too much about how you're applying it. You can cover it as much or as little as you want. I've kept it with a limited amount of water here because I wanted the color to be a little bit more saturated. But you can see here, it's getting just a little bit lighter as I'm going to go ahead and transition it into, and I'm going to pick up over on my watercolor, just an orange, and I'm just going to start moving this into that orange color as I go down the rest of my tea. This would be fun. I don't know why this just came to me, but how fun would this tea be for a little fiesta, right? These colors kind of remind me of a fun fiesta. But this is just a great way to be able to decorate these directly onto the wood with things that you likely already have. If you're a crafter and if you're someone, who already does scrapbooking or card making, I would bet that chances are that you already have watercolor paints, right? And so this is a way that you can use those, but to kind of transition this from not just scrapbooking and card making, but more into this fun decorative look. Now I'm going to go back in here just a little bit with some more yellow. You can do this, as much or as little as you want, but I just want to help that kind of transition a little bit to that orange. So you can see it starts dark up here and then gets a little lighter and transitions so nice into that orange. I mean, how easy was that? And just using things, like I said, that likely you already have on hand. Okay, next up, let's move this out of the way and pull in another option for you. So here I have the letter E, and all we did with this one is just use a reinker and a sponge to color this. This reminds me of like how you would stain something, a piece of furniture or something in your house. So this is what it looks like typically. And then we've kind of stained it with color. So I'm just going to grab, let's see, I'll grab another letter. So remember, these just come like this, each letter individually. I'm going to grab the R, move this one out of the way. I'll work with the R. And then I'm going to grab one of our reinkers. I'm just going to use espresso. And I'm going to just make a little pool of that over here on my mat so that I have a little something to work from there. I love this mat for that purpose. This is our all-purpose mat, and it just works great to kind of be able to work from. And if I need to add to that, of course I can. But I like to start with a little dot of it here, get some onto my sponge here, and then I'm kind of just staining it. So when I do this, like to go with the grain of the wood. And on some pieces, it just depends which piece you get. Some pieces, the wood grains goes vertical, and on some it goes horizontal. So it really just depends on the letter as to which way you want to go. I'm going to add a little bit more white inker over here for myself. But working with the grain helps a little bit, and I always like to go with the grain first, and then sometimes I'll just go back through and go against the grain. I love this look. I love that you can see the different little variants in this wood as I do this. It just reminds me again of like if you're refinishing furniture. So fast, so easy, and take a look at how cute that looks. This would be great, especially if you have like a rustic themed decor in your house. Think of all the different things that you could do by just simply kind of staining these using something as simple as a reinker. Again, this is probably something that you already have on hand in your crafting stash. Okay, next up, let's take a look at what you could do with one of my very favorite tools, a shimmer brush. So this is a shimmer brush just used onto the wood piece. Again, there's no paper involved, so we're doing this directly onto the wood. And let me just go ahead and grab, I think I'll do the B, because we can pick any letter that we want. I'll move this out of the way so you can see this really well. So we have so many shimmer brushes. We have a variety of them, and they come in so many different colors. And yes, I have tons of these just on hand at all times because they're one of my go-to tools that I use in my scrapbooking and card making. And with this, in addition to using it that way, of course, you can go right ahead and put this onto the wood. Now, what I love about this look is that not only do you get the color, which is beautiful, and like I said, there are so many different colors to choose from. I mean, you'll definitely find the color that you want. But I also like that you have a shimmer in there. And I think you could really see that well on this sample. Take a look at that. And you can put on as many coats as you want. I'm just going to do one coat on this, but you could go over it again, of course, to make it darker. But you not only get the color, but you also get that shimmer. So it's kind of like a 2-for-1. So while doing it with the reinker, or even an ink pad you could do it with, will give you the color. This gives you a little bit of something sparkly going on in there as well, which I think this would be great for things like birthday parties. I mean, I like to put a little bit of shimmer in pretty much everything I do, so I could use this on everything, but I think it would really be fun for things like birthday parties. My niece had a princess birthday party, and I think, oh, this would have been just perfect. But so easy to do just by using something you typically would have on hand right on the wood. Okay, next up. Now, this one here is really fun because this incorporates things that I already love, which is stamping and then creating these fun kind of decor pieces, or in this case, a banner. So what we've done on this one is actually stamp right onto the wood. Now, an important thing to know if you're going to stamp onto the wood is that you first want to cover that wood with a pigment-based ink. So we've covered it with that white ink first. The reason for that, if you don't do that, obviously stamping straight onto the wood, your inks will bleed. It's wood, so it's going to absorb it. So this kind of gives it a nice little barrier or a base for you to stamp on. So all I did for this one is just grab my White Daisy ink pad. You can grab any letter that you want. I just took this White Daisy ink, rubbed it all over that letter, let this dry, and then you have this beautiful piece ready to go and decorate however you want with stamps. This one here and this one's really neat. So you can make these as simple and fast as you want. You can also do them a little bit more in depth. Like that one that I showed at the beginning, we had watercolor on it. We also had embossing powder on it like this. We then added some shimmer trim. So you can do kind of multi-layered dimensional things like that. You can also do just as simple as what we just talked about and just color one with a shimmer brush. So I like that there's so much different variety that you can do with these. This one is pretty cool because we use 2 different techniques in it. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to use the letter L this time. And I'm going to use my blending brush and then use embossing powder. So blending brush with some Distress Oxide ink, and then I'm going to do some embossing on the bottom of this. So let's go ahead, and I'm just going to use this Kitsch Flamingo and Picked Raspberry. I'll use 2 colors. I'm also just using the little brush here to apply this. I'm going to start with my lighter color, pick up a little bit of this, and then I'm just going to go ahead and start applying this. You can do it as light or as dark as you want. And I only want this to go, I want this colored ink part to go about halfway down. So really about a quarter way down as far as I want that light color. So I'll set that one aside now and go right into my darker color. Now you could do that all in just one color if you wanted to. I just like the look of it going from light to dark, kind of like we did on that other one. And so I just like the way personally that that looks. So there we have that part, quick, easy, done. Now I want to do the embossing. It's going to require me to heat emboss. So there's a couple things that I want to do. I want to take some washi tape, and I just have some random washi tape. Doesn't matter what it looks like, if it matches your project or anything like that, because we are just using this to go ahead and give us a nice crisp line from where we're going to emboss. So I'll just tear a little piece of this off. Then I think I'm going to start my embossing right about here. Now, I want to have some Versamark, which I have here. If you have done embossing before, heat embossing, you know that you're going to need this to go ahead and emboss. And so I'm going to take this, and then I'm just going to ink this bottom part using that Versamark. I want to get that all nice and inked up because that is what my embossing powder then sticks to. So I'll go ahead and move that out of the way. I can remove this now. It served the little purpose that I needed it to. I'm going to grab in some paper because I'm going to get messy. And I'm going to go ahead and use some gold embossing powder here on this. And I'm just going to shake this over here. Don't worry about how much you use when you're doing this because, as you know, we'll pick that right back up and funnel it right back into this. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of shake it off. Make sure that there is no embossing powder where I don't want there to be embossing powder. It's easy enough to do. I'm going to add a little bit more down here. And I'll just slide this out of the way and heat this up. So with heat embossing, of course, you need a heat source. I'm just using our heat tool here. And I'll go ahead and just apply it to this and watch the magic happen with embossing powder that we know happens. And again, this is a really fun way to use the things that I'm guessing you already have on hand in your craft room, but use them on different projects. Like this, for instance, these banners. How fun would this be to just create banners for all year round, right? You could have banners for every single season or all the different holidays, different birthdays. They're really inexpensive because you can get just each individual letter as you need them. And then you can decorate them to coordinate with your home decor, to coordinate, of course, with a theme of a birthday. It just makes it really easy to create your own affordable and beautiful banners to celebrate either special events or just use as home decor. And you can see that that then is turning. This is the magic of heat embossing, right? It's turning that and solidifying it there onto our letter. Such a fun way to really kind of dress up that letter L. Now this reminds me a lot of the one I showed in the beginning. Just all we did to that one is we didn't stop here. We then added a little shimmer trim around the bottom as well. There are so many different things that you can do using these fun wooden letters, and hopefully we're inspired by some of the techniques that you saw today. Remember, go ahead and try it out with these wood letters. Use things that you have on hand already in your craft supplies and see all the fun things that you can create.